Hi, we're going to go over some of the landmark Supreme Court cases of today. The definition of Supreme Court is that it is the final say in all cases involving the law of Congress. However, it is not all-powerful as it has checks and balances. The first course we're going to go over today is the Boy Scouts of America versus Dale. Dale was a gay troop leader who the Boy Scouts of America kicked out of the association because that he was gay, and it goes against the troop expressive message that the Boy Scouts of America promoted. The court ruled in a 5-4 ruling that it would ruin the productivity and teaching of the morals of the Boy Scout troops because he was gay. So the First Amendment ruled that the Boy Scouts were allowed to kick out Dale because of his homosexuality due to their right of expressive association.
I don't think it's okay that they fired me based on my sexual preference because of my state stature.
I, however, have a counterpoint. The fact that our morals and everything that we preach for the Boy Scouts is a personal thing, the Boy Scouts, and based on our First Amendment rights, we should be legally allowed to discriminate against him being homosexual based on how our program is set up. Your Honor, what do you think?
I agree with the Boy Scouts. The next case that we're going to do is Planned Parenthood versus Casey. In a more recent case stating that Pennsylvania's laws against abortion, which also had that the fact that a minor needs a parental consent and that a wife must notify a husband before she gets an abortion, were against Roe v. Wade. In a 5-4 decision, they reaffirmed Roe, but left all the Virginia laws intact except for the husband one. So even now today, in the state laws, they can control how they reaffirm abortion. Even though it is still legal, they can change the laws on where and when it is. Hi, can I have an abortion?
What state are we in?
Pennsylvania.
Well, you're gonna have to ask your mother and father and your husband.
Thank you, sir. Hi, Daddy. Can I have an abortion?
Sure.
What about you, Mom? Sure. Hi, husband. Can I have an abortion?
Yep.
Coolio. They all said yeah, but this sucks. This is super unfair. In Morse versus Frederick, Joseph Frederick had a sign at school assembly and that said that bong hits for Jesus and was suspended. He sued saying that his First Amendment rights were violated even though his sign was shown at a school-sponsored event. The court ruled in a 5-4 decision that school officials have the right to prohibit students from displaying messages of illegal drug use. Students have less rights in high school than they do as a free illegal adult, which was the decision.
Jesus, Jesus, Jesus.
Excuse me, young man. You can't do that on school property.
Ma'am, I am an American citizen, and that means I have the right to free speech.
But you're on school property.
I'll see you in court.
Finally, after millions of appeals to the Supreme Court, I have finally proven that you were wrong.
Oh yeah? What are you gonna do?
Suspend you.
No!
So our next court case that we're going to be doing is Brown versus Board of Education, in which they finally overthrew the segregation of schools. Because the original ruling was that if it was separate and equal, it was okay. But in a unanimous vote, they found that separate but equal is never actually equal, because if anything is separate, it cannot be equal. So they overthrew segregation in schools.
My daughter Linda here has to walk 6 blocks through a dangerous railroad area, okay? And then she has to ride a bus for 2 miles to a black school. While in the other direction, there is a school, a white school, only 7 blocks away that's much safer. Why can't she go to the white school?
Well, based on Plessy versus Ferguson, the schools are separate but equal.
Anything that is separate or equal can't be equal because they're separate.
The next case we're going to do is Loving versus Virginia. Mildred Jader and Richard Loving were married in D.C., but then they moved to Virginia and they were arrested. They were arrested because they were in an interracial marriage, which was illegal in Virginia. There was a unanimous decision for Loving, saying that Virginia just did it for racial segregation.
Mildred Jetter, do you take Richard Loving to be your lawfully wedded husband?
Yes, I do.
Then by the power vested in me in the District of Columbia, you are now husband and wife. Now take your honeymoon off to Virginia.
Whee! Wow, I sure love being on this honeymoon with you, honey.
This is pretty darn.
Hey now! You're black. In these
Ah!
parts, you can't marry the white man. You're
I'm
under
sorry.
arrest. Let's
No.
go, both of you. You're under arrest. Off to jail.